aka Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Okay, welcome to the Star Wars news, views, reviews, and interviews. Let's get started. Kevin Smith, who played in the classic comedy low-budget film called Clerks many decades ago, has had a bit of a heart attack. They call it the Widowmaker, but he has survived, which is good. He's a great man. He's a great YouTuber and great movie, contributor. And he loves Star Wars. He's really pushed the whole Star Wars thing before, during, and after. It's fantastic, but he's had a bit of a heart attack. He's on the recovery right now. I'm wishing him the best, and I'm sure you guys out there as well. Kevin Smith from the classic film Clerks. That's one of his films. It was great. He also does push Marvel and DC type stuff. If you want to check his YouTube channel, check it out. It's funny, serious. It's a really swell of emotions in a good way. To more news, Mark Hamill could be appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He could be. From his Twitter account with Mr. Gunn, who's the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy, has been going back and forth, a bit of activity there. Mark Hamill could appear in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If you don't know who Mark Hamill is, he's the guy who played Luke Skywalker. And it would be great to see if it was Luke Skywalker in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It could work. It's, you don't want to sort of start putting too many crossovers with Star Wars. I think you should keep it as its own entity, but that would be an interesting move on Lucasfilm behalf if they choose to move that character over into the Marvel universe as well. But he could be appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let's wait and see. To more news, speaking of Mark Hamill, he's going to get a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. Should be sometime in March. That's right, in March. Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, should be getting a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. To more news, speaking of Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, in the novelization of The Last Jedi, which is very shortly going to be coming out, early March, that is, there'll be a lot of reveals to extra story points, but there is no confirmation of Luke Skywalker ever having a wife. Just in case you wanted to know that fact. Yes, no confirmation that Luke Skywalker, the character, has had a wife between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, or even before The Force Awakens episodes. So that's two more news. The new TV series that's animated could be called Resistance. Well, at the moment, in between, at the end of the season of Season 4 and the finale season of Rebels, Resistance could be the next animated series. Star Wars has copyrighted the name in the last week or so. So Resistance could be the new one. And more about that, what I think, later on the show. To more news, Colin Trevorrow, who was meant to direct episode 9, which is yet to be actually named, which will be a good while yet. There has been a bit of chatter of the reasoning of why he got fired before he even started episode 9. It was possibly that he didn't agree with certain story elements in episode 8, The Last Jedi. What points? Nothing's been confirmed, but that could be the reason why he had some issues doing episode 9. But that's to the possible firing of Colin Trevorrow. The two parties, Lucasfilm and Colin Trevorrow, could not come to an agreement. Anyway, that's been reports out there. Anyway, that really is the Star Wars news this time around. I'd like to keep giving my thanks to Sean with Sources of the Forces news items. He's the guy out there, sourcing out these great news forces that's appearing, and obviously I do some as well. But thanks to Sean with Source of the Forces news items contributing to the Star Wars news on The Force Always. Anyway, let's get into the views. The views this time around, it's not predictions. This is not about predictions. This is my story ideas. As we've got a TV series with a possible name, which is an animated series, which is called Resistance, what time period would I like it to be most? They need to find a way to make the time period of the next animated series really close to the movie that is coming out. Even if it was set after The Last Jedi, having the Resistance be a part of that time period. The only problem with that is it would have to be a short animated series. It wouldn't go for years. Unless you can do it if you really sort of created sort of generalized stories in parts of the galaxy that is not so relevant to the next film. But I would like it to be set just after the time period of The Last Jedi, which is episode 8, the Resistance. You know, sort of the ups and downs of the Resistance. The good guys, the old rebels. But it seems that what we got in The Last Jedi, the rebels seem to be on the comeback. So that would be an interesting point there. But that would be the best time period. That's my contribution to when it should be, what all the stories should be about. You know, there's many types of stories you can come up with, but it should be not in the front and the center of where the movie is holding the next movie, episode 9. It shouldn't be in the front and center in that period, that area of space. It should be somewhere on the other side of the galaxy, and it should be after The Last Jedi. That's where I think the Resistance TV series should set itself in its storyline in that time period. That would be, you know, something that's new, and it would also help advertise the next movie. Anyway, that's my views this time around. To the reviews. Big one this week. Rebels Season 4 is halfway already. Can you believe it? It's a very short second half of the season, but with long, multiple episodes. And in the last week, we had Wolves and a Door and A World Between Worlds. Now, boy, these two episodes, especially the second one, which is A World Between Worlds, that was a very trippy adult episode. But let's stick with the first one, Wolves and a Door. Pretty simple, straightforward, with a trippy element to it, like new things that Star Wars fans will not right into in seeing in movies or animation before. Really centered along these wolves, the journey, getting to this Jedi temple. It was a good lead-up episode. Without the next episode, this episode would have been a bit flat, but it was still good. I gave it 7 out of 10. The winding of this season and the Rebel show in general is very interesting, but at the same time very trippy. And unless you are hardcore Star Wars fans, it's going to be a little bit hard to sort of really accept it. It's sort of like viewing art. If you're an artist, like art, like Picasso's or whatever, you've got to be really open-minded. And then with these Rebels series coming to a close, you've got to be really open-minded in what you're seeing and hearing and story ideas. You really got to be open-minded, and not just open-minded, but be a hardcore Star Wars fan. I'm actually feeling a little bit sorry for kids, because these shows are very adult rather than very kid-friendly. And when I say adult, not like, you know, vulgar and explicit and sexual, just very, really intense storylines for kids not to get straight away. And it's definitely repeat viewing type episodes, and it's definitely reference type episodes, meaning you'll go back to this episode to really sort of learn a bit more about what's happening in the future. But I think Filoni, who's the big contributor of Clone Wars and Rebels, is doing a good job But these next two episodes, Wolves and a Door and A World Between Worlds, were very trippy and very adult, probably a bit too intense when it's with this adult sort of feel to it. But anyway, The Wolves and a Door got 7 out of 10. A World Between Worlds was 7.5 out of 10 for me. I really liked it. I really liked how Emperor Palpatine was in it, you know. But there's a lot of things in this particular episode that's got to somehow soon make sense. You can't leave us lingering too long. To have time travel and portholes, and the fact that the Emperor could possibly access or not access these things, you know, creates a lot of possibilities of why didn't that happen, why didn't this happen. Lots of questions, which is, you know, sort of good for Star Wars fans, because we will keep asking questions, but we need closure, and we need it to make sense in a certain amount of time to really sort of, you know, be appreciative. But anyway, that one, A World Between Worlds, 7.5 out of 10. These two episodes need each other to survive. They were great. Anyway, but still trippy, but very good. So, anyway, let's get into interviews. It's a 2Qs, that's 2 questions I have. And this week will be, which person does it need to really sell the idea of the Solo, a Star Wars story? Which person will it take to sell this story the most? One person. If Harrison Ford sees this film and says he likes it, and I mean, you know, with a real conviction to he likes it, it will sell the story to the masses. But you really got to believe this guy. He's very subtle when he answers questions, or his enthusiasm outside of acting. He's very, you know, very, very plain, very just, you know, not over energetic. But he needs to sort of say this with some sort of energy, and he needs to say, yes, it's a great film. Yes, it's a good film. He is the only one that can be trusted in knowing that Alden Ehrenreich, who's playing the young version of Han Solo, which is obviously Harrison Ford's character, he's the one who can approve it the most. Not Kathleen Kennedy, not George Lucas, anyone. He's the one. For me, he's the one who owns that character. Even though George Lucas did create the character, he really made that character his. And he really knows the intricacies. And he'll know that if Alden Ehrenreich is selling Han Solo as a character within this film, it all relies on that. I am still looking forward to Solo, a Star Wars story. I've been looking forward to this since they announced it. I think it's actually very good. I'm one of the few Star Wars hardcore fans that thought this is a great idea. I like backstories. I like, you know, dissecting the character beforehand. I think that's life. You want to sort of know why, how. It's very scientific. It's interesting to sort of get the inside knowledge of how that person got there. I understand that mystery is a really good thing to have in Star Wars, especially with characters like Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt, even Han Solo. But I think dissecting the character and how he got there is equally interesting. And I don't think it's a sellout. I think it's a great idea. So I'm still thinking this will be the best Star Wars film ever, in the form of that it's going to be the most entertaining, really good start, body, and outro story. I think there's going to be a lot of repeat views. That's my opinion. Anyway, so Harrison Ford should be the one that sells this Solo, a Star Wars story, the most. If he says yes, it's great, we're in. Second question, if Solo, a Star Wars story, fails with the fans, the critics, even the box office, what should happen? Well, I think Star Wars will survive. It's gone through turmoil before, it will go through turmoil again. Personally, I think Kathleen Kennedy should not step down. I don't think the story should be rewritten, rebooted, nothing. It will be just a slight glitch, and until we get into episode 9, which will sort of have this whole period of time of Star Wars come to an end, I think then we will sort of gather if Star Wars has got a real future decades ahead. But I think personally that if it fails, Star Wars has got such a stronghold with its fans and such a stronghold in the movie going audience, the regular audience. I think it's unbreakable. I mean, look, yes, they said the Titanic wouldn't sink, and it did sink, but I do believe Star Wars, it can sink, but I believe Star Wars will hold itself for a long time yet. There's no way that Disney would have bought this for the amount of money they did and not know the ins and outs of possibility. Anyway, so if Solo fails, it will be a bit of a glitch, but it will keep rocking. Anyway, subscribe to this channel for more Star Wars news, views, reviews, and interviews. Like, share what you're seeing. And until next time, as I say here at The Force Always, keep rocking.